Nice to see you. To see you, nice. Welcome to live stream. Welcome. So good evening, my fellow maybe not world travelers, my fellow life travelers, existential life travelers, or knowledge travelers, I don't know what you call it. I mean somebody that thinks outside the box. Good evening and welcome. Just let me check again that the sound is working. Yes, the sound is working. So, welcome. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do here. So, what we do is we do a talk on non-duality. Funny enough. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted by looking at Skype. Let me just shut that down. Okay, so let me tell you the order of things. So first of all, normally the way things go is that what do I first of all do? Yeah, I do silent sitting, and after the silent sitting I then do an introduction, and then after the introduction I then do questions and answers. And lately I'm feeling like speaking with people on the phone, so I'm more than likely not going to answer so many written questions. And if you'd like to speak to me, please make sure you've got good Wi-Fi and you've got a headset with a microphone so it doesn't echo. And you call through Skype and you listen to the audio through Skype and not through YouTube. Yes. If you'd like to join me for an event, amazingly there are events going on. I have a retreat in Spain at the end of October, and I have a Tantra and non-duality retreat at the end of August in Germany. So you're very welcome to join either. And with the Tantra and non-duality retreat, because of COVID, some people might not want to do the Tantra part. So if you don't want to do the Tantra part, then you're welcome just to come to the non-duality part. And you can find information about that on my website. Can't think of anything else to say right now. So we just start with the silent sitting. So with the silent sitting, you can do one of three things. You can just sit there and let anything appear. So just allow your mind to run wild and think about what it wants to think about. You could do these other two practices. One of them is called the Mindfulness of Breathing, which is putting your attention in to the breath. And you have to count to 10. So every time you breathe in, you count 1. And then your next breath, you count 2. Your next one, 3, all the way up to 10. And when you get to 10, you just start again. And that's all the meditation is is counting breath to 10 and then beginning again. And that's called the Mindfulness of Breathing, which is a really beautiful meditation. And then the next one is keep moving your attention into I am, which is into presence. And know when doing this that even though it sounds like I'm giving you a prescription of something that you should do, there can't be any prescription, because who would I be prescribing to? There is simply a description of what can happen. So I talk about this stuff and that might be a following of that, but that's totally down to life. It's just when you're believing your illusions, you think it's you that did it, you that does it, whereas there is no you that does it. So hello, we can begin. So what was the title of the talk? Just let me have a look again. It's called, What Does It Mean to Surrender? What a nice title. What does it mean to surrender? Khaleesi? So you often hear that in a lot of non-duality talks, is surrender. What does that word mean? Well, the question for all the ardent Neo-Advaita listeners would be, who would surrender? Who? Who, Lisa? Who? What would surrender? And that is true. Who would surrender? We have to go back to the beginning, I suppose, of what this life is and how it moves. Like there is an assumption that you're moving your body, that you are looking out of your eyes, that you're hearing my voice, and that you chose to sit in front of this computer and listen to me. And this is a delusion. It seems very rational and sensible to most, but it's actually not true. It's not true. That is just the feeling that is given. But there isn't actually somebody that sees through the eyes or speaks or hears. There is simply life happening. I'm just going to go and put the towel in between the door because it's rattling. 1 minute. So it might seem like there is somebody that is sitting there, but there isn't actually somebody sitting there. Intellectually, getting this is not actually the experience of it, but intellectually we can point close to it by recognizing that you aren't in control of what you think and feel, even though thoughts say you are, so it all becomes very contradictory. So your thoughts say, I am, and there's a phase that you might go through of like trying to recondition your thoughts, which is an appropriate phase. But when you really examine it, you begin to discover that there isn't actually somebody below your thoughts controlling it. So on the surface level, you can recondition yourself by, I mustn't have these thoughts, I've got to try and change my thinking. But even those thoughts, the ones that are saying I've got to recondition my thoughts, are appearing and disappearing from no place. It's not like there is a God or there is a somebody sat there that's like, I'm going to think this, I'm going to think that. It just is appearing. And that's miraculous. But the assumption that you do it is what can create very neurotic thinking and hostile thinking, very controlling thinking, because the belief is that you're in control of life and that you've got to protect yourself from this thing called life. So you're in control of your life, and then you've got to protect yourself from that. And if it's not true, so if the foundations of that belief isn't true, that you are in control of your life, then you can understand that could make thinking very neurotic. Just like if you're around somebody that's continuously gaslighting you, and continuously telling you you're mad, you're bipolar, there's something wrong with you, that will begin to bring about forms of insanity. Equally, it happens to an individual that grows in a society telling it you're in control of life when quite clearly they are not in control of life. Having the idea of control helps navigate the body, but that is all it is. So by the idea of control, we recondition these instruments to make better choices in the future, but there isn't actually somebody in there that can pick that. So by informing yourself that apple juice late in the season is very bitter, so by knowing that bit of information might stop the body next time choosing apple juice. But that doesn't mean there is somebody there. It's so convincing though. People are so hypnotized by this idea. But it's like these algorithms on the internet. We program these algorithms to create something. So we program these algorithms to create a picture, say. So that I think that's possible now, that we can specify certain things to an algorithm, like particular colors, particular shapes, or whatever, and it can create a picture on that specification. But it doesn't mean that that algorithm has free will or has free choice. And by updating the algorithm, saying you don't want black lines in it, then the picture will change. And that's what our choices are doing. It's changing the algorithm of the body, if algorithm is the right word. So it changes the functioning of the body. But it doesn't mean that there actually is somebody in there that's choosing. So we could program a robot to have choice. So we could program it so it can choose, but it's only choosing from its current up-to-date conditioning. So how would we program a robot to choose? We would program it by the amount of ticks it's got for things in the past. So if it's had lots of positive experiences with drinking apple juice, then in the future it's more than likely to pick that again. But that doesn't mean free will and choice. It's just the algorithm is changing and evolving and updating, which is really magical. Super magical. Magical. So with this illusion of choice, there is then this deep identification with a character, but yet you can't quite grab hold of the character because, like everything, the character is always evolving and changing. We try in our society to make a solid character, so to be a specific way for people, but in actuality, it's something that's growing and you're never the same. You're always changing. And we believe that's who we are, and we believe that that character is who's experiencing. Whereas in actuality, the character is something that's being experienced. It's being experienced. So just if we imagine this robot, or these algorithms that we've programmed in, the robot isn't actually experiencing. So it's not actually conscious. It's not aware of itself. It's not watching the world. It's simply a functioning that is happening. When we look at the robot, it appears in consciousness. So there is something that's conscious of it. And maybe one day we can put consciousness in that robot. But that robot is never alive. That's our mistake. When I say alive, I mean like you believe that functioning, that ability to choose, that ability to address what it likes and what it wants and it doesn't want, so all the different algorithms that are playing, doesn't actually mean that's alive. It's just as alive as bacteria, as the trees, as the grass, all of it's alive in one way, but it's not, when I say alive, I mean it's not conscious. It's appearing in consciousness, but it's not conscious. And what we could do one day is we could put consciousness in it looking from that particular angle, but it's still appearing in consciousness. It's not actually conscious. The robot, the algorithm, doesn't own consciousness. It's appearing in consciousness. And it's the same here in these bodies. we always think that we are alive and we are conscious, whereas in actuality, we are appearing in consciousness. And this consciousness isn't actually connected to the body in any way. It is equally in everything. It's just seemingly looking from this angle currently. It's looking from this angle. It appears as if it's happening from these heads. But in actuality, when you really go into what consciousness is, not intellectually, but in the moment, it's seen that consciousness is actually all things, and it doesn't really inherently exist as a thing. There is awakeness, there is everything that is experiencing itself, and that everything is nothing. And consciousness is such a mysterious thing. It's so unknowable and it's so mysterious. And you could say it's nothing and everything simultaneously. So what seems to happen in waking up is there's the cracking of the nut of the personality structure that is energetically holding on to consciousness and feeling like consciousness belongs inside this body. And it's an energetic movement from being contracted to not being contracted anymore. Like knowing on a deep, deep level that your consciousness and this energetic shift. And that energetic shift can change the personality structure. It often does change the personality structure, but that's not its interest. It doesn't care if you get grumpy with your partner because they haven't done the washing up. What happens though in us, which deludes us, is that we get grumpy doing the wash. We get grumpy because the partner hasn't done the washing up, and then it creates seeking in us, which makes us like spread out like spilt milk, like going into all directions, trying to find a solution in time. But when that shift happens, that evaporates a lot. And there might be discomfort, it might go on for a period of time, but there is a deep knowing that nothing in life can bring you what you want. What you want is what you are, which is everything. That doesn't look like anything though. It doesn't mean you'll be peaceful or happy. It tends to make the personality structure more balanced and happy, although I don't even know what balance would be in this society. The society is a little bit warped. It's a little bit bent out of shape. Has some bizarre ideas. So it could manifest as a homeless wanderer. Who knows? Who knows, eh? Do we still have sound? I always like to check my technical equipment because there's nothing... Actually, I was going to say there's nothing more annoying, but that's just a saying because there's plenty of things more annoying, but there's a particular like, when you're halfway through the talk and you realise that your audio or camera isn't working. But there is plenty of things more annoying, isn't there, Khaleesi? Like walking in dog poo with your sandals on. This is slightly annoying. Okay. So surrender, if I haven't covered that already, because I forget, is the collapsing of that energy that's holding on to the personality structure. This is me. This is me. You aren't that. You are nothing. There is nothing looking out of your eyes now, which is everything. Okay, we go to questions. Hi, Isabel. Hey, Edith. Hi, Miko. Hi, Elango. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Nick. Hi, Nicholas. Nicholas says, we're going to speak with Nicholas. Just plug myself in. Ready. Hey, Nicholas.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. I just need to move you onto my headset. 1 second. Speakers. That's black hole. Hello, can you just speak now? Hello. Hello. Could you? Hey, can I just see 1 second? Just at least make sure it's going in. Could you just speak for a moment? Okay. What? Yeah. Oh yeah, I've done it into the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Hello? Yeah, hang on, sorry. I just done it to the wrong thing again. Hello? 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 Can you just speak again? Oh, I've forgotten how you get it into Skype. Can you just speak again? I'm just going to call you back because there's something not going right here. 1 moment. So, we put it into black hole. Let's just try quitting Skype. Oh yeah. Done it. Cool. Hello. It's all in now. No, you've not now. That's really odd. You were going in a moment ago. I'm sorry. Okay. Can you just speak again for me, please? Okay, it's okay, you can stop now. So there's something very strange going on. So I can get Skype in, just not you. Okay, just give me a moment to just think this through. Thanks. Could you just speak for me now, please?
Yeah.
Okay, I've done it.
speaking for
I
you
have
right
done
now.
it this time.
Okay.
You're in.
Good. Yes. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to ask you about the body.
Yeah.
And because a while ago for me there was a seeing that sort of the psychological person is just not there. And for a while there was no thinking about it, and I was just like living. And now after a while it seems like this attachment to the body has come back in a way, in that there's just this reacting from believing that I'm basically this body, but with no one inside, but this body is what is. And it's not really a problem either, but it's just interesting that how can something inside this perceiving think that it's actually perceiving.
What would you like to happen?
Before there was this kind of expanding sensation, and it felt like the perceiver kind of went out into everything that was being seen at that moment. And so now it's different, and a thought can come that says, oh no, it's gone now, but it's so obvious that it's just like this reaction to change. But also it's just so pleasant. It kind of feels like the sort of the person in time is no longer believed in, but the person in space or the body is what's more the focus of my attention right now.
Yeah. Normally when these awakenings happen, they do break something. Like it can't be fully forgotten anymore. Whereas prior to that, there was this more of a sense of being lost. Like you don't really know what you're looking for or where it is. And then these awakenings happen and it remains with you, like a residue of it. What often happens is that there can be a period of time where it's going backwards and forwards. So there is more belief and then less belief in that person, or more energy holding on to that person and less. And it's just allowing the mind to not make conclusions. That in the end you don't know where you are. You don't know what's happening. It's simply happening, and what is spraying up or appearing out of this nothingness is thoughts about losing it, getting it, where are you, you're contracted, you're not contracted, like the commentary on your awakening process. And it's just seeing that that is all that is. And that when the energy is ready to go back into everything, it will, and when it contracts, it will. And in the personal world, you can seemingly direct your attention and investigate your dynamics. But in the end, life is taking care of your awakening. It's not you that's taking care of your awakening.
It's like every time the sort of attachment seems to come back, or the body reacts in kind of those old seeking patterns can come up. And it's just this doubt that I can see is just this body is used to doubting.
Totally.
It just doubts.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's that's it. Like noticing that the body has habits.
Yeah.
If you've been conditioned for 30 years to doubt yourself, then even after a massive awakening, a massive shift, and even after a full shift, the body can still have that tendency to doubt things. It's like a pattern in which the brain is used to thinking. And it's just noticing that that's all it is, that it doesn't mean anything, it's just chit-chat going on. What happens when there's an identification with it is a belief that it's true, and then trying to avoid that. So belief that there is something wrong with your awakening, there's something wrong with your experience, and then the attempt to try to avoid that, to try to get to something else. It's just as it is. So it's just coming back again and again to what's actually happening in the moment. The thoughts have lots of opinions about what's happening, but it could be, so if the doubt is appearing in the mind, that the body feels nervous, and it's just putting your attention deeply into that nervousness, and then in a way, in that nervousness, it all disappears. Like it's all there and sort of not there at the same time. Like nothing really inherently exists here. It's all mysterious.
It's also funny that I used to like think that meditation and stuff like that was actually like doing something.
Yeah.
But now it's like I just like to go on walks.
Yeah.
Because it's almost easier to stay in that place when I'm like fully eyes open, just being somewhere.
Yeah.
Because when I sit down and meditate, it feels like this body is so used to meditating that it's like each time it sits down, it's used to thinking it's a person.
Yeah.
And like now I'm meditating and I'm trying to find this, and
Yeah.
that can come back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Lovely to speak with you, Nicholas. Thank you
You
for
too.
calling. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So if you'd like to speak, just put, I would like to call, if you'd like to call in. I'll just read a question while I wait for people to say they would like to call in and speak. Hello, my love. Don't you agree with freedom? Don't you agree that with freedom there come certain changes in the body, chemistry, and brain? And such changes can also be measured in humans who meditate or do yoga. Hope you understand. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's going to be huge changes in the brain. But that's not the point or the destination. And that's not measurable as in it will look like this or it look like that, because it depends on how the person grew up. For example, if there's an area in the brain that could measure goodness, and you've been brought up that you have to be good your whole life, there could be, when there's a shift and when there's awakening and reconditioning, there's almost like a learning not to be bad, but to let go of this and let go of goodness and badness. And so there could be a change towards doing more bad things. Like when I say bad, like not being so polite, not being so people-pleasing, all these types of things. But then there could be a different personality that's very egotistical, very narcissistic, and very self-centered. And in their awakening and their shift, there might be more of a push to goodness. So you really can't measure what it will look like. I can understand all different ways of being after this shift. We want to find a way of being often so we can copy it and we can be like that and we can set it up as a goal. Like if I do non-duality, I'm always going to be compassionate and kind afterwards. And in the end, we don't know what compassionate and kind is. We only know what compassionate and kind is from a human perspective that we've taught each other, which fits with the functioning of our society. We don't know actually the bigger scale of what kindness is. We don't know. So I don't know what it looks like, but yeah, for sure there seems to be traits and ways of being. So I take preference to callers tonight. So if you want to call, please send me a message. Hey, Carlos. Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. So this topic is really interesting here. The kind of like the people like describing the expectations of what it's gonna be like, or how it was and how I don't have it anymore and how I wish it would be again. Because I remember when I first started listening to this topic. Um, I didn't I wasn't uh, interested at all in like any other stuff like meditation or yoga stuff like that. This kind of like came randomly, so I wasn't like used to these kind of topics like meditation and doing work. Uh, but then like the topic kind of like leads you to it because of course it's connected to a bunch of um, old stuff like the Vedic scripture, and the people that you find talking about it all say, um, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, or well, because everybody, the first question everybody gets is like, okay, so how do I get it, or like, what do I have to do to get it? Um, so obviously that's like on everybody's mind. Um, I wanted to like kind of ask you. I asked you like a question. I think two Sundays back, about like the parallels between Buddhism and Advaita or non-duality. And you mentioned that you were practicing for like 5 years. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, you don't have to go into detail. Just kind of like how much were you into it, like the practice and kind of what happened with it, like
Yeah.
how did it go for you?
Yeah, I was really into Buddhism. I used to do an hour or two meditation every day, and I used to study with a women's group at the foundation of the Western Buddhist Order. They have a different name now. So once a week, on Thursday evenings, I used to study with them, and then I often used to do one day voluntary work at their charity shop, and then I would often spend Saturdays and Sundays at the Buddhist Center as well, maybe in the evening or during the day. So I would say I was really heavily involved, and also they had a library full of books and audio tapes from the guru. I don't think they call it guru in Buddhism. I forget what they call it. The teacher, the main teacher in the foundation of the Western Buddhist order. So I used to listen to these tapes all the time and all the different talks. So I would say that I was very heavily involved. And then also like 3 or 4 times a year, I'd be going on retreats. So yeah, it was really important to me for those years.
Okay, and did you feel like, well, I mean,
I
like
also
you
had
feel like the
precepts that I
character.
had to follow. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
took like the 5 or the 8
Huh?
precepts,
Sorry?
like a nun.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
not, I wasn't like a nun, but there were precepts, there were rules I had to follow as well.
oh, okay. Oh, well. Okay. So did you feel like that doing got the character of Lisa closer to that experience, or realization, or was it just something that the character does and is in no way related to what it's currently being experienced?
Yeah. It's impossible for the character to get closer to this because the character is this. So everything is it. So the suffering character is it. The deluded character, the busy-minded character is it. And the peaceful character is it. But what it did do to my character was it settled my character down. Like, so when I started Buddhism, I would say I was quite psychologically disturbed. I wasn't balanced at all. Not that Buddhism actually balanced me, but it balanced me to a greater extent. It calmed down my thinking. Like, I remember the first time I tried to meditate, after like 20 minutes, my mind was crazy. It was like I felt like the whole world was bouncing through my mind. Like, it was really intensive. And then, over the years, I used to be able to do 10 hours sitting, in one day when I did retreats of meditation.
With
So
like
it's,
a still mind for 10 hours?
no, it would change all the time.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes still mind, sometimes not. But I'd be on retreat and we'd do 10 hours meditation a day. And I think some
Yes.
people would find that very difficult to do. You
Yes,
sort of build
yes. I
up
mean,
to
just
it.
the sitting. I mean,
Yeah.
like the body kind of has like that kind of like, well, for Westerners mostly. I'm sure that Asians that are used to like sitting in that position for a long time
Yeah.
are kind of used to it. But Westerners, with the chair and the
Yeah.
whole being bent over thing on computers, kind of like makes it really uncomfortable to be just on the same position for more than a couple of hours.
Yeah. And that was something that they taught you in Buddhism, or in the Buddhist group that I was in, that if your body's hurting, to see that the pain is mind made.
Uh,
Not all of
okay.
the teachers would teach that, but some of them would teach that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it begins to
definitely.
get really trippy. You begin to have like drug like experiences, because I remember one time, like, I felt like my bones were breaking. It was so painful. Like, it was almost to the point where I could cry. And then when the bell went off for the end of the meditation, when I stood up, I realized that my body wasn't in pain at all. Like, that my mind had just made it up. Like, it was presenting that I was in agony. And then when I stood, I didn't even have dead legs. It wasn't even like, how sometimes you stand up and your legs are
Yeah,
dead
you have
and you're
the
limping.
shivering. No. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I've read. I've never had like I just get up. I can't stand it. But I actually admire people that are able to do that. I know it's all in the mind or the character's mind or whatever. But I guess there's some people that have some characters that have the willpower to do it in others. So I guess if you really practice, you could probably do anything. But
Yeah.
I guess it does take time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
And it takes time. Like, it's not that I had a predisposition towards it. It was my initial response was wanted to jump up and run around the room or something. But it really is that you get more and more used to it. And it's really settled my character down. Before that, I always had to be doing something. And that really taught me that you don't have to be doing something. You don't have to have all units of time booked up with activity.
Yeah, that's true. But for this position thing, it's actually like kind of what interests me about this talk when you were talking about like the AI or the robot, because it does seem like each character has um like predisposed algorithm. I mean, I guess like the DNA and all those other
Yeah,
stuff play a lot.
totally.
And if you have like that kind of past life vibes,
Yeah,
then you can also incorporate that like, oh well, I was a yogi in my past life, so now it's really easy for me to do this. It's interesting because it does show that like uh, it doesn't have to be like anything specifically, like let's say like a robot has to have a specific algorithm or program for it to be able to to be seen. I mean, any program that's run can be seen by someone that has a computer, but it doesn't like rely on the nature of the algorithm itself, whether or not it's present. I
yeah,
don't know if that makes sense,
yeah, yeah,
but it's it's really interesting that we go through all these kind of hoops and try to like work it out. And I think that's also like that decide to like how do I do this, what do I have to do, why doesn't this work for me, and the character getting stuck in there um, just kind of show to the infallibility of that perceived free will that we have, or like that I am um, the runner or the producer of these thoughts and desires and intentions and abilities. When it really just, I mean, I don't know if it's random or if there is past life. I'm really not sure, but there is something that is not you. Basically, it's kind of like what presents itself, and 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 it's always interesting because going from like that perspective of like I am the doer and I everything that's wrong with my life is because I'm not good enough, or everything that's good in my life is because I earned it. Going from that perspective to like kind of seeing things as, this is just the way that it is. Um, really, really changes stuff, and it doesn't have to be like an experience of, or like a phenomenological experience of bliss like people painted, or like being happy all the time, or just this enlightenment. Wow, it just kind of is, and you kind of get okay with that.
Yeah. It's just the way it is, and everything else is just mind noise. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, the idea of it being blissful, or the idea of it not being blissful, or any image that might appear of what it should or shouldn't be, is simply mind dancing. And then the whole time there is this stillness which everything is appearing in and is. And it's never moved, it never left you, it's there.
All the time. Yeah, the mind dancing. I think it was one of your videos that you said like, it's in my eyes, or you can see it in my eyes, and until that's, or something like that, and then until you see that, or until that scene, then I'll just keep dancing with words. Because it's kind of like what it becomes once, I mean, once you have no questions about it, that it's just words going around, kind of like thinking of how to maybe express it, like, oh, it's like, oh, it's not like a movie, or it's not like a TV show, or it's like a video game, and then you kind of like just get it. That kind of just happens. You just get lost in this similes of what it's like. I mean, in respect to speaking with others, or kind of like explaining it.
Yeah.
Um, if they're really, if you're really not talking to anybody, then I guess silence is just as good as noise. I mean, they're both the same, but it just kind of runs along, whether you experience it as such or not, or whether you believe it or not. It just goes on. So yeah, well, uh, I really enjoy your talks. Hopefully
Nice,
you keep
Carlos.
doing it for a while, and kind of entertaining us here, and with with the dancing of words, and yeah, have yourself a good day or night. It's
Yeah,
night over there. Night. Wow, I
yeah.
can't believe it. It's like 12 here. It's only like 9 for you or 8.
No,
Time is
it's
crazy.
6:30. It's not so late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, time difference are crazy. All right, Lisa, have yourself a good one.
Thanks, Carlos. Bye.
Bye.
So, is there anyone else that would like to speak? You can just send a message now saying, I'd like to speak. Hi, Bia. Hey, Isabel. Hi, Vadios. Hi, Edith. Hi, Thomas. Hey, Nick. There was another person that wrote a question and I lost it. I know it sounds weird. Just disappeared. Ah, here it is, Miko. Hey Lisa. It's recognized that I'm here. It's just this being, this I. The seeker is a phenomena. However, something still smells here, and the identity still plays. The desires are crumbling down beautifully, and this here is peace and this silent joy. In a funny way, it seems like something is stabilizing, yet that which stabilizes is not this. In this silence, there is still individual I looking out, yet it is not the seeker anymore. It is recognized that this silent I is not this, yet this I is its conscious presence, is where I am looking. Some hidden identity remains in the system, peace, joy, yet some dead fish in the pocket. That's a good saying, some dead fish in the pocket. I'm not sure if there's a question there, or if you just wanted me to comment on it. I'm not sure if I've got anything to comment on it. Janito. Hi Lisa. You said the reason we seek pleasure is so we can be in the present at peace. What am I supposed to do when I'm not at peace? I feel restless, boredom, discomfort. I'm guessing the short answer is just to sit with it, right? But it's so, kill me. Hi, Gianetto. Yeah, it's just to sit with it. I mean, that's when we were talking about meditation, that's what I was practicing when I meditated all those years, was just sitting in discomfort, to the point where my legs felt like they were breaking in two, and I just sat with it. What happens in our brain is when we over activate dopamine, then it can produce very uncomfortable feelings when we're not getting a dopamine hit, because we're so used to getting a dopamine hit, it's like becoming off of drugs. Hello, Anu. Nice to see you here. If you could comment. I don't know if I've got anything to comment, Miko. Yeah, that's what's happening. And that's beautiful. Like the way you phrased it is really beautiful, but I don't know what I could comment. Yeah, that seems to be what's happening. And at the same time, it's not. It seems to be this whole dance of words and play, as if you are someone that's waking up and then slowly disappearing, and then at the same time not. An identity remains or not remains. Hi Lisa, a question about future lives. Are these two just imagined? Could the person living next door to me be one of my past or future lives? Just a simple question to ponder. Dennis of Kentucky. Could be. Some people think that past or future lives that doesn't have to be before you're born. So sometimes people feel like they're an incarnation of Steve Jobs, and yet are born before he died. But it's possible. Anything's possible, really. We really have no clue how the functioning of this manifestation is happening. What we can know deeply is that our essence is no thing. Our essence is everything that's appearing here, but how that appears intellectually is beyond comprehension. We can't possibly know it in science. It's like those games that you go to the fairground where this little head pops up and you have to hammer it down. Like in science, they think they get to something, they work something out, and then another contradiction appears, and then they're like, oh no, boom, 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 then another contradiction, boom, contradiction, boom, boom, boom. Impossible. This life is beyond comprehension, but in the moment there is this freedom when it's recognized that you aren't found in time. Who you truly are isn't found in time. Who you truly are is this moment. And there's a freedom here. It's like screaming, me, 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 or here, 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 love, love, love. And then the personality is always afraid and looking for something else or needing something, trying to get something for it, trying to get quick pleasure. And even in that pleasure, it's actually looking for this moment, because in the pleasure, seeking falls away momentarily. But even all of that construct that I give you is still construct. In the end, this is unspeakable what's happening. But there's this deep resonance when I say these things that you know what's being talked about. That's why you keep listening again. And listening to other non-duality speakers. Hey Isabel. Nick asks, what are you feeling right now? I'm feeling a lot of energy. The energy is really vibrating. Feels like a lot of energy of love that's wanting to come out, come up and come out. There's also slight discomfort in my solar plexus and slight discomfort in my throat. Lots of spaciousness, bigness. Janato. Why is it important to tell people they don't have free will? Either that is a required description for enlightenment, which it isn't, or you're just being disrespectful. Whatever the truth is, it's irrelevant. Einstein could have come to me and tell me, we know 100% about the brain and there is no one making decisions. And then also God himself could come down to earth to tell me I don't have any control. That would still be irrelevant because it's not my experience, and it won't be until the herder contraction energy changes. Wish you'd just do 2 hours of silent sitting instead. Having to hear this is super toxic. If you find it toxic, then you could not watch. But again, you don't have free will, so you can't actually really choose to watch or to not watch. I would suggest that it's not toxic, but what's happening inside of you is there is a toxic reaction happening. So it's like, if you think of yourself like a chemical reaction, like I say some words and then a particular chemical reaction is happening in you. And my suggestion would be to stay present to that chemical reaction and then try to see the source of it. So maybe me saying that makes you feel powerless. It's not making you feel powerless, but there's a response of powerlessness or out of control or lack of control happening. And I would just pay attention where you feel that in your body. I would suggest it will be the solar plexus. But you just pay attention to it and just be curious, when in your day-to-day life is that triggered? When do you respond from that? Is that a healthy response? Or is that making your life more complex from responding in that way? Thank you for your question. But remember, you can also just switch off. Even though it appears like you can't, obviously, because you're listening. But you could just watch another teacher. You don't have to watch this. Is there anyone that would like to call in? Just call me at the top and then it will come up and I'll see it. Are there any past or future lives if there is no personality to incarnate? There's habits and conditions. There's no personality which carries on. There's no solid person. So when a tree produces seed, that seed will have a particular likeness to the tree it was produced from. And that's happened through evolution and through multiple versions of trees. You get different species of trees, but they almost probably originated from the same tree. And then you get multiple species and variations. And it's the same, I presume. I mean, I don't even know how it works, but I presume that there is the rebirth of habits and conditions. Like, you can't fully get rid of the habits and conditions. They're constantly going into this life. Okay, so more important to disidentify. Well, who's the person that it's more or less important to? This moment doesn't actually care if you identify or don't identify. The habits do, because the habits want pleasure and to avoid pain. But your essence, that which is looking now, that which is right here, doesn't ever move. It's just here. Hi, Eric. Hi, Lisa. My dog passed away. She was 12. How do I even begin to deal? There's going to be grief that appears in the body, which is very normal. But then also noticing that she's always here. Habits and conditions weren't actually alive. So you saw your habits, your dog's habits and conditions. So Khaleesi's got particular habits and conditions, but they're not actually what's alive. They're what we see and what we register. What was actually alive and conscious was her consciousness. And that's the same consciousness that's looking through your eyes. So she's here in the very fact that you're awake. So she's here in all things, in the looking. Her habits, so her particular way of sniffing the ground or peeing on things or barking or greeting you, was never what was alive. That was movement that you personified and made a person of and made a solid character of. And that's really beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. And sure, there's going to be grief in losing that, but that wasn't actually the experiencer. That was an experience. So her essence was experiencing that as much as you were, but just from the different side. And her essence is the watching, which is still here. It's just not looking through that particular body-mind mechanism anymore, but there's still looking. It's the same looking. It's really miraculous. And you think that you're looking from a different angle, but you've always been looking from the same angle. So if you imagined a light, and you imagine putting a paper bag over the light, and then you put 2 holes in that paper bag, and the light came out from both paper holes, and then one of the paper holes you believe is you, and then the other one you believe is your dog. And you believe they're separate, but it's actually the same light, and it's the same as consciousness. It's not actually looking through those paper holes. It's the same light. It's in everything. It's here right now. It is all things that appear. Thank you for your question. It's beautiful, and I'm sorry for your loss. There's also grief in the body that will need to play out. Thank you for sharing. Send lots of love to all who are suffering. Thanks, Mikey. The scientist example was spot on, especially now with quantum physics. The observing scientists literally change the events they observe to match their expectations, so they can just keep chasing their own tail. Hi Vedios. Yes, you can call. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, nice to hear from you.
Hey, for accepting me. I'll just try to ask almost the same question that I asked last time, but if it's not appropriate, I have to take a lot of time.
Okay, go for it. I don't know if I can remember the question last time, so.
It's about feeling guilt. It's a psychology, actually. It's psychology. About feeling guilt.
That's great that you've identified that. Like, sometimes people struggle so hard to identify the difference between the two.
It's avoid feeling pain. It's like that. And it's again like my manager, my boss, getting back from vacation, and something happened, which is not my fault, but I used many hours fantasizing how I'll be accused of it, and begin feeling guilty, and or he will somehow attack me with first find some small mistakes and then point out bigger mistakes, and how would that hurt? And this vibration would be put on my close people, like my wife would be infected with this vibration, and we would start arguing.
Yeah. So where do you feel that guilt in your body?
It's my heart. I think it's my heart. My throat wants to shout. And also solar plexus not being able to do something.
Yeah. So what happened is that information got into your mind, and then
resonance with my childhood, like my father is the closest example. My father, like this is what happened in my childhood.
Yeah, totally. So that thought got in your mind, and then your chakras, which already have a certain vibrational energy, fitted that into the pattern in which you're used to feeling. So if you're being brought up, told you... Sorry?
Hours of suffering, and maybe it's not quite pointless, because I want to learn to vibrate, how to vibrate, and also memorize some old teaching, like another master, which I've seen lots of times. He would a story like he would was taught to not to react, not to sell himself, not to feel guilty, and that this whole teaching would be like a student would get very positive feedback when he does something wrong that society likes, and would get negative feedback when he does something very right. and learn not to sell your soul for emotions or for positive feedback and like that.
Yeah, that sounds great to do that. Another way in which I would work with it is that, so first of all, you recognize that it's guilt. You recognize that these areas are disbalanced, and you connect it to your dad. So you understand that your dad used to treat you in that manner, and that your body is going around in loops of that, and there's most probably a trauma in your body connected to that. And all the time that's happening in consciousness. So even though now your chakras are in discomfort, there is this infinite space in which that's appearing in. Like your consciousness isn't more in that pain. Your focus is, but your consciousness isn't. Your consciousness is conscious of the computer, conscious of the wall behind the computer, the color, the sound of my voice, what's behind you. Like it's conscious of the birds singing outside. So the consciousness, even though the person feels contracted, the consciousness isn't contracted. The consciousness is absolutely free. Your essence is free and boundless and can't ever be contained in that pain. What we do continuously is try to find freedom in that pain, whereas that pain is simply pain. I experience pain. I experienced old karmas coming up. That's what happens in the body. And that's also what helps us navigate around this world from our life experiences. And sometimes we need to change them because they become too strong and they take over our experience, and they also sort of add to the contraction of consciousness because you spend so much time trying to seek to avoid them. But in themselves, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just pain appearing in your system. So just allow that in your system, and then I'm going to teach you a healing technique, even though I've said all of that. So I want you to try and imagine very specifically someone that rescues you from this situation. Human that comes in and rescues you.
Yeah,
Sorry?
okay. Yes, I imagine you rescuing me, but
It's me! Okay, but it's got to be vibrational, so you've got to really feel it. It's not like a mental thing. That I come in and I give you all the positive reinforcement that you need, all the love that you need, all the care that you need, all the mothering energy you need, everything that you need, and you've got to feel that. So use that imagination. I will come in and protect you from your boss. I will inform your boss that you're in fact the best worker there is. Like I will heal and fix everything. So just use me. It's slightly bizarre me saying to use me like this. Normally it's like someone, like parent or whatever, but it's okay that it's me. I'm happy to be that. Sorry?
better my mom, it's because you is too much.
Okay. Well, it's too pleasurable or too painful?
It's too deep and it's too you are too energetic.
Okay, too energetic. So name somebody else. Someone that you've not got like really negative experiences with, but somebody that like that you would like to help
my
you.
mom.
Your mum. So just imagine that. Just really allow her to come in and fix everything. What happens in your system?
I have a sense of it, and it reminds me, I used to be a therapist and would tell about my traumas, and I remember she told that the fact that my mom would not protect me from my father was important, that I was unable to protect myself later. But if I imagine someone protecting me, then, and what I'm trying to tell myself is very important to remember not to feel guilt, because guilt removes this protection, feeling of protection.
This is something that you can practice with yourself again and again over the next days before you see your boss. Like, so when you feel this coming up,
much,
just
Lisa.
Sorry?
No, I was just thank you so much for
That's okay.
giving me this tip.
Yeah, so it's something, it's a practice that you can do, like write it on your hand and keep reminding yourself. Basically what it's doing in the end is it's trying to recondition that trauma, but it's also bringing you present. Because what you feel at the moment is all this lack. And then what's happening is that person in your imagination is fulfilling you. And when it begins to fulfill you, you begin to become more and more present. And then eventually you can let this technique go, but it's just a technique to try and pull you out of this deep suffering. Sometimes it's good to sit with the deep suffering, but sometimes it's good to also use techniques to help pull you out of that. Because I know with you that your mind can get stuck in loops of it again and again and again. And it's really, in the end, the goal is it's bringing you back to what's actually happening. The right now consciousness is free, it's here, and the person is in pain, so the person is like stretching itself into time and into the mind and into thinking. But nice, thank you for being so honest and open and phoning up and saying that. I'm sure it was helpful for other people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Eric says that's really beautiful, thank you. That was talking about his dog that died. Anna, how you describe death is so beautiful. I think so. No, that was just what Eric said as well. That's nice. Okay, there's no more question, and we're nearly at 8 o'clock French time, 7 o'clock UK time. So that's the end for today. But thank you so much for anyone that called in and spoke and was so honest and open, and anyone that asked questions, really. It's very vulnerable to put yourself out there. And I shall speak to you next Sunday, 6 p.m. French time. And remember, if you want to come to an event, there is one coming up in August, and you don't have to do the Tantra now if you don't want to. Okay, my fellow life travelers, goodbye.